did say one thing about my granddad, her dad,
Uh-huh.
that he was such a kind man. He wasn't that, I don't think he was active, but he was a good man. And she talks about how he worked on that road, that beaver road that takes you up into the mountains, up into the big flats. He worked on that, but he was always hauling wood to the widows. He always went and took care of them.
Oh, that's great.
So, but it was hard when they died, but this woman just kept right on going. She raised all those kids, and so where are we?
All right.
We got that straight out. It was 12 then.
Yep. 12. Got it.
Talking about the farm there and Dad's, but like I said, he was a good man, an honest man.
Let's have
And,
Grandma come in and have you talk about when you met. Hey, Grandma, come in and we want to talk about when you two met and how that happened. Let's do that next.
You want to talk about what?
Grandpa's going to tell me about how you two met and everything, and I thought we should have you in here to clarify.
In case he doesn't tell the truth.
Yeah.
Or to give both sides of the story.
Yeah, I'll be like, that's not how it happened.
when we went to school, I was at the Beaver High School. She was down in Minersville.
Minersville went to school to 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
And then when they got to be big graders,
Then we got to go to Beaver. But before then, are you going to tell or do I get to tell?
you've been waiting for this all day, I can tell. I mean, you're all geared up.
She wants to tell me what really happened.
Is it going?
It's been gone.
All of, there was nothing in Minersville. You know, no form of activity whatsoever. Until this year, one of the people built a skating rink. And so that drew all of the young kids from Milford and Beaver up because we were kind of right in the middle of the two towns. So Grandpa came down roller skating, and that's how we met. He was at the roller skating rink.
How old were you?
I was 8th grade, he was 10th grade.
Really? Oh, how
That's when
cute
we
is
first
that?
met.
You first met?
And you liked him right away?
I liked him right away.
Oh.
Then how come you didn't go with me? Because you was too young.
Because I didn't go out then yet. I think we went. I think you took me home with a whole bunch of kids at that time. Because the kids in Minersville, we just walk up to the skating rink. It was out of town, probably a couple of miles.
You'd walk?
And we just walked there. Yeah.
Okay.
And I have to tell you something funny.
Yeah.
Well, silly now because, like I said, there was nothing to do in Minersville. But so sometimes at night, a group of us girls would just walk the streets and we'd sing these songs that we'd make up about these boys that we liked in Beaver and Mel. And trying to think of how it went. I'm being embarrassed now, aren't I?
No way. You had a song for Grandpa?
Yeah.
You did? I don't think I've heard it.
Well, I'm sure I didn't tell you. I like doo-doo-doo, his eyes so blue, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. He's my favorite too. I can't remember.
Funny.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, how can you remember like that?
That
That's
was
funny.
a long time ago, but we used to sing.
And you only went to school through 8th grade, like Grandpa?
No, then I went to 8th grade, and then 9th grade I went to Beaver High School. So then I was in 9th grade, and he was a junior. And that's when we really...
That's when you were in the
dated.
same high school?
Yeah. 9th grade went to...
Weren't you
high
a
school.
student in the student body?
I was vice president of the junior high in 9th grade at that time.
I run for president. When I got beat.
I was popular.
I had a terrible manager. It was my cousin Sam.
So did you drive to Minersville to see Grandma then?
Yeah, he had
Yeah.
a car. Grandpa
Yeah.
always had a car.
You always had a car.
Well,
That's
we
a
had
good choice,
an
Grandma.
old
Good to
Model
date
A,
guys that have
and then we
cars.
had that Model B.
But you always had a car of your own from the time you drove.
Well, I bought that Oldsmobile from.
In fact, he had a car before he could drive, and the policeman gave him permission to drive up to town to go to the movies. If he'd park behind the drugstore and walk around and go to the
my
movie,
word.
then he could.
Well,
Yeah.
2 miles outside of town, I was walking it.
And so the policeman
night?
gave him.
By the way, when you'd walk home at night, ever seen a spooky movie? And you're walking down and you hear all these noises out there in the pastures, but we did have to pass a slaughterhouse. And I can remember after passing the slaughterhouse,
Slaughterhouse was where they killed people.
Yeah.
I was much faster. Then I'd hear something, I'd say, they're coming after you, Garrett. And I'd purposely create that so I could run faster. I broke the record.
Running home.
Yeah.
So how old then after your dating, then you decided to get married? You were young.
No, then we stopped dating for a while.
Oh, you broke up.
Oh,
Yeah, we broke up because he was my first love.
Mm.
But I hadn't been around any other boys, so then I got involved with the Melford boys and some other Beaver boys, and we didn't start back dating again until he was a senior and I was a sophomore.
Sophomore. Okay.
It was interesting back in those days with that, the Army, knowing that you were leaving,
Uh-huh.
and that how many of our people, and you couldn't go on missions.
Right.
I remember a good friend, the stake president's son, Dale, who eventually became an MD. They were married while they were still in
High school.
high school.
So it's fairly
That seemed-
common to get together early.
It was very, I was just trying to think about how old was Jimmy?
He got married right out of high school, and he married one of my friends who was
He was an
a
excellent ball
junior.
player. He could have,
Not hardly any of the kids our age went on to college.
Hmm.
It wasn't something that people had money for, or they usually stayed home and worked with their parents in the farms.
farms.
Or
How did you get out?
get out of what?
Grandpa had hay fever, and farming was
Oh.
not something that he ever wanted to do.
Well, after I graduated, there was a job opening that came up on the railroad down in Melford, which is just down the road. So I went down right after graduation and went to work down there. And so I did cleaning at first,
Uh-huh.
and also some other things. Then eventually got in the store department, and it opened up
And
a
the
few more
store
doors.
issued out
Actually, I
equipment
guess
to
where I
get-
started out though was with that water crew, where I went with them that summer. The dad let me go.
the summer between your junior and senior year.
Were
I
you
started
married at
work
that
with the
point? When you
No.
went down, when he went down to Milford, you were not married then.
But
We
I,
didn't-
but I was just saying there about on this thing when I went with the water crew. They went to all of the stops where the trains went. And, they had to have water in those areas, and restrooms and stuff. And so I went with the group of, there's 4 of us, and I was an assistant to help them with the plumbing. Clean the water things, tanks, and things where you would be the water to drink. And sometimes you would be surprised what
That's
you'd find.
disgusting. That's disgusting. We don't
But
do
then
that.
I came back and worked
That's
there in the
disgusting.
store department. That's
Yeah.
when I got to that job, and that's when we got married. I was working there.
What was your wedding like? Small?
I better go get my wedding picture and show you. I just found it the other day.
Your what?
Good.
My
Your wedding picture.
She's gonna show off her wedding picture.
I thought it was very nice.
Did
of my friends
you get
sang-
along with her family, and her family got along with you? Okay.
Oh yeah, I used to sit there with her grandpa.
Oh yeah.
He was fun. He's an old timer. I mean, they're
Which
old.
grandpa? Which one?
Hers,
Well, she's got 2.
Myers.
Myers.
She's the one she lived with.
Oh, one who
She
raised
lived with
her.
her grandma and grandpa who raised her.
Right. And you liked her grandpa.
Oh yeah, they were always very nice. But he was one of those. I could sit there and he'd start talking about the old days,
Oh yeah.
and but he knew a lot about some of the original things, where the mines were, where they when Brigham Young had a mine from some of that area down there for lead, so they would be ready against Johnston's army and all of that. But you know, they were in some here. One night we were parked out in front of the house. I've got to tell you this one.
Oh, cute.
When we were
Have a bigger one someplace, but I can't.
we had gone somewhere and came back and was parked out in front of the house, and we were talking there, and then I don't know, I probably had my arm around
You were
her,
making
something
out
like
and you
that.
got in
we
trouble.
were making out.
I don't think
you
we were
might have
making
had
out.
your arm around her.
Right there, though, right in front of the house. You know, you got to be careful. But I don't know what we were doing. I think we were down a little bit, and all of a sudden we looked up and somebody went by,
A lady went by.
and it was just like she
corner
wasn't
and
like she wasn't even touching the ground, and it startled us so bad. We left right then.
I went in the house and I slept with my grandma, and I woke her up and I said, "Grandma, you won't believe it." She said, "It was probably just your mother checking up on you." Then I was really scared.
But no, they were really good people. They were just down to earth. They're nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Just,
You slept with her at night?
Where
Where was Grandpa? You kicked him out?
Oh yeah, he was kicked out.
He slept
The women
in
took
he
over.
slept in a twin bed. And I slept with Grandma. I feel so bad now. But I was a real boob. I really was. I was afraid to sleep alone. I never slept alone until I got married. And
now you don't sleep alone anyway.
but after we were married, and we still lived in Melford, and Grandpa was still working on the railroad, but then he got bumped by a kid that was just had a few months more seniority than him. So we moved to Cedar City, and Grandpa started working as a route salesman for Highland Dairy. And so when we moved over there, then he would leave like Monday morning and not come back till Tuesday night. And so I had to sleep alone 2 nights a week, scared to death.
Oh, heavens.
But my grandma was but she made me think it was okay because I was always warm, and I'd snuggled up behind her and put my feet under hers and kept her warm. So
Funny.
Were you warm like that then?
I was warm then as I am now.
She's a heater.
That's funny. That's really funny.
But
Then you moved to Cedar City, and then what happened after that? Did you have how
That we
long
moved
after
to
you got
Cedar.
married did you have Debbie?
we moved to Cedar, and Grandpa worked for Highland, and then he was that job just ended. I mean, it lasted until the 1st of November.
Okay.
By then, Debbie was a tiny baby, and we moved back to the farm and lived with Grandma and Grandpa until January, and then he got a job with his uncle in California, where he had worked a few months before in an Excelsior plant. So we moved
not
in.
where he worked, because I wasn't in California. It was in
Oh,
Cedar
in
City.
Cedar City.
Yeah,
he
but like
worked.
a
And so
similar-
then,
I had worked there.
and so we stayed with his aunt and uncle down there for a week until we found us a place to live
In
Had-
California.
in California. Just got into our own little apartment, was there 3 days, and Highland Dairy called him to come back to be a route salesman.
By myself.
So he went to work, and
So you
when
went back.
and when he came home, I had everything all packed, ready to leave California. I hated it down there. I was so lonely.
It was by yourself.
We moved back to Cedar City, moved back into the same apartment that we had left before. It was funny.
Well, it was a different room.
No, that same.
Well, the first one, then we
yeah,
moved
and
to
then
the front.
as each time we had a baby, we'd move to a little bigger apartment, But Grandpa didn't decide to go back to school until the day your dad was born.
Really?
And 26th of September, he was supposed to register at College of Southern Utah. And he took me to the hospital. Now hurry, I've got to go to register. And I said, we're having a baby.
I can't hurry.
I can't hurry.